Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your day. And we get rolling here in September. We love it. Okay, let's see. Let's see if when you get your notifications. And we'll say hello to some dear friends here. Let me see. I don't see any. I'm not even getting my notification. There we go. Okay, let me just see now. Got to be there somewhere. Here it is. Nope, not it yet. Hello, guys. I want to say hello to you, but I don't see anything yet on mine. I think there we go. There we go. Okay, I can go from the top. Sully from Petawawa, Janine, Deb, Norma, Texas, Lise, Sudbury, Brahim, you're even near the top. Chaz, how are you? Sandy, Lori, Judy, good morning. Fran from Orangeville. And Brandon, and Marilyn, and Douglas. Diane, how are you? Lily May, how are you? From Sarnia. Donna. Catherine, Donna's from Park Hill. Springdale, Newfoundland is Catherine. Julie, Minnesota. Anne. Hi, Anne. St. Catharines. Diane, LaSalle. Doc McEwen, our dear friend from West Tennessee. Wanda, Virginia. Sandy, Vancouver, Washington. Kristen, Saskatchewan. Lori. Dennis. Brenda. Nice to have you on, guys. We love saying hello to you. Kevin, there you are, Kev. How is you? Kevin from Oshawa. I call him the mayor of the group. Paul, Edmonton, Annette. Nice to have you on. Francis from Vaughan. Cheryl, how are you? Arlene, good morning to you. Luella, West Tennessee. Nativity. How are you? Maureen, nice to have you on from Boca. A dear friend from Boca Raton, Florida. Mary, New Brunswick. Rhoda, how are you? From Labrador, nice to have you on. Danny, Ironbridge, I know where that is. Teresa, Dunedin, Florida, the home of the Blue Jays. Cheryl, the winter home of the Blue Jays. Gloria, Gwen, Alberta. Lily, how are you? Georgie, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Janice, Frida, Beverly, Sue from Bolton. We love you guys. Thanks for coming on. We are almost at, okay, hi Helga, hi Madeleine, hi Marianne, hi Francis. We're almost at 90,000 followers on Facebook alone. 25,000 in our private Facebook group. And millions of downloads on the Doctor Is In podcast. Guys, all because of you. Okay? Rita, Sylvia, Sharon, Daphne, Rosalinda. I didn't want to miss you, Rosalinda. Wendy, how are you? And guys, we love you dearly. Okay. I got so much stuff that I wanted to go over. I kind of figure out which one to start with. Okay? And new studies on sugar. So let's do that one. Okay, new studies on sugar, and it ain't good. Sugar and the brain. Now, guys, you know this, and I know this, but the world, not so much. That sugar has a very detrimental effect on the brain. Anyways, what do they call Alzheimer's. What was it called back in 2005? Won a Nobel Prize in medicine. Type 3 diabetes. And that all got buried. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about food and Alzheimer's. They don't want to talk about blood sugar and Alzheimer's. They just don't want to do it. And it's not part of the narrative, okay? And that sort of got buried. But I never forgot it. I talked about it on our radio show for years and years and years. Type 3 diabetes and Alzheimer's. And one of the proofs in the pudding, okay, just to put this in context, man, where's the leading, in Britain, one of the leading causes of death is Alzheimer's. Like it was nowhere near the top 20 when I was in school. Heart disease was always there. Well, it wasn't always there, by the way. But in the 70s, it was there. Cancer, of course. Alzheimer's? What? No. Wasn't even close. But now it is. It's creeped right up. And everybody's scratching their head. Is it genetics? Is it amyloid plaque? And that's all been debunked. The major cause is sugar in the brain. The brain swimming in fuel it can't use. Look, your brain can use some glucose, but it's like, guys, you're swimming in the Atlantic Ocean, okay? Like Marine there in Boca Raton would go and have a little dip in the Atlantic Ocean today. But Marine, you wouldn't be drinking that water, would you? Of course not. Can't drink salty water like that. Well, that's what happens in the brain when it's soaked with the wrong fuel. Here's the study, okay, on brain, but it's not only the brain, but even in slightly elevated blood sugar. Okay? So when you get your blood sugar tested, even if it's slightly elevated. And guys, we wrote an email today on one of the best tests that you can have done is A1C. The average of your blood sugars. Okay? So, even slightly elevated blood sugar is affecting 2 areas of the brain. Slightly elevated. Doesn't even have to be what we call diabetes. And guys, there's no real pre-diabetes either. You're a diabetic way before you get the diagnosis of diabetes, okay? Just remember that. If your A1C is elevated, you really are on the Titanic of diabetes anyways. Don't fool yourself about that. I used to tell my patients that. Don't be duped. I used to tell them. Don't be duped. What? Don't be fooled. I just took your blood sugar and I took your urine. You got sugar in it. You're on the Titanic. Get off. Change course. You're in trouble. We didn't even know back then what we know today. You know what area even with slightly elevated blood sugar, 2 areas of your brain get affected. Hippocampus. I don't care what kind of thing you call it. It's the memory center of your brain. Guys, for all intents and purposes, you got 2 areas of your brain. major. Hippocampus, memory. It's easy. Campus. Hypothalamus, endocrine. Okay? Think of all your, like your thyroid and your adrenals and your hormones. So sugar, even slightly elevated, A1C that's slightly elevated, affects the memory center of the brain. It soaks it with the wrong fuel. Your little mitochondria, the battery packs in your brain, and you got lots of them. They get affected by that. And the hormones get affected by that. This is why, guys, the reset is so good for your hormones. Because even in the brain, the hypothalamus responds to lowering your blood glucose. Don't you wish the world knew that? Elevating your blood sugar is so stinking dangerous. It affects the memory. We saw it in kids. Bouncing around. School starting. Bouncing around. I remember grabbing little kids' faces in the office. You know, I said, "You like bouncing around?" "No, I can't help it, Doc." "Yeah, I know. That's why, even though you're young, you got to get this memo. You got to change fuels." You got the you see, you like cereal? Yeah, I like cereal. Well, stop eating it. Mommy, no more. Give them bacon. And I mean it. You like bacon? Oh, I love bacon. Good. Eat that every morning. I'm going to show you how to make a Dr. Martin's Perfect Smoothie. Yeah? You like milkshakes? Oh, I love milkshakes. Good. You're going to like this one. And it's good for you. And Mommy's going to make it for you. Bacon or the milkshake? Okay, sausages too. And I mean it. It was amazing what happened. Anyway, the hippocampus, thalamus gets affected by sugar. We knew that, but new study shows that, here's another one, just on the brain. Sugar, slightly elevated, rewires, this is the headline, rewires brain's pathways. Memory center, hypothalamus, think of hormones, and then mood. Listen to this. Sugar rewires the brain's pathways and leads to an increase in depression by 50%. Guys, I got to tell you this in my office. If you could only get a depressive patient to conform, wasn't easy. Because when you're depressed, okay? When you're depressed, you're going to reach for the wrong fuel, I used to tell them. You're gonna, you want a quick fix. You have to put barriers. You have to put this in, you got to get ready. I said to depressive patients, okay? Listen, It's not all the answer, but it's a big part of the answer. Food is fuel. And your brain, you happen to be a canary in the coal mine. Some people get away with it. You don't. Okay? That was my love message to these people. And I saw tens of thousands of people that struggled with depression over the years. I said, if you take a pill, it's a Band-Aid. It's not a fix. That was one of the biggest discoveries of the summer of 2022, when we turned mental health on its back. Because studies conclusively said, bipolar, for example, you know what, was a problem with insulin. And depression was not a lack of Prozac. It wasn't SSRIs. That was a Band-Aid. It wasn't the cause, because we thought it was I didn't, but it was well established, and millions and millions of people were put on Prozac and its derivatives. And they turned it upside down and said, that's not the cause of it. And then thirdly, Alzheimer's. Summer of 2022 said, you know what? It's not plaque, amyloid plaque in the brain. It's mitochondria. It's energy in the brain. So guys, sugar. I used to tell my depressive patient, let me finish that part before I do anything else. I said, listen, you got to get ready for when you sink like the Titanic in your mind. You go into darkness. You got to be ready ahead of time. You have to have a disciplined, don't compare yourself to someone else. Just get the memo. You have to be ready. You have to be disciplined in your life. You've got to, when I tell you, you got to exercise, you got to exercise even when you don't feel like it. Your brain demands it. Your brain doesn't get away with it. Your brain's just another organ with lots of battery packs. And you can't have sugar. What? Well, you're a diabetic of the brain. Depression. I used to try and get them, just be ready, be disciplined. Be disciplined. It's not easy. You know, people got diabetes elsewhere. But these people have diabetes of the brain. They can't use the wrong fuel. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. But it's to get them to conform. It's not easy. Because, like I said, if they get down, guess what they reach for? Wrong food. Then they stop exercising. They're down. They're depressed. I can hardly get out of bed. Never mind get myself to a gym or go out for a walk or whatever. Guys, I'm telling you, it was amazing. Over the years, people that disciplined themselves, and they were eating eggs, meat, and cheese almost exclusively, and a few fruits and a few vegetables, but no bread and no pasta and no noodles and no muffins and no bagels and they stayed away from that. And boy, oh boy, did they ever realize whenever they got off the wagon, how it affected their brain big time first. Well, that's a canary in the coal mine, guys. We all have our weaknesses. We all have them. Sometimes it's mental health. That's a real weakness. And sometimes it's, our hormones, and sometimes it's our liver, and sometimes it's the pancreas, and sometimes it's the heart for people. Do you know what I mean? We all have our weaknesses. But one thing is universal. Cut out the sugar, like as much as you can. It's just unreal. Sugar and the brain. Hippocampus, hypothalamus, mitochondria. The energy packs in the brain. I used to aim at that. Very quickly you get atrophy. Your brain shrinks with sugar. What's the wrong fuel, guys? And man, what you can do with bipolar when you change fuels. But again, you got a weakness. You got to be disciplined. Set yourself up for success and not failure. Your brain starts to play tricks on you. You know what it is. It's the way it is. Anyway. Sugar, honey, ain't good. The studies are unreal. They're unreal. It's that A1C. We talked about it in our email this morning. If you didn't get that, you get it. Sign up at martinclinic.com if you're new to this program. Get the email. It's so good. We talk about triglycerides this morning. Fat balls. And you only get elevated triglycerides when you're eating sugar. Too many crap or sugar holding hands. What? Well, bread. That's just sugar molecules holding hands. It's a little bit more complex than adding straight sugar to soda or whatever, but it's still sugar and it gets broken down very quickly. They're just sugar molecules holding hands. Dr. Martin, it's whole wheat. I heard that 1,000,000 times in my office. Dr. Martin, it's whole wheat. It's 12 grain. It's whole grain. It's multi-grain. Just sugar molecules holding hands. That's all they are. They're holding hands. They're going to be broken down rapidly. And you need a lot of insulin for that. I don't want you to leave the planet, guys. I want a plan to succeed, not to fail. And one of the biggest things to fail is when you tell people not to eat. Well, I tell you, replace. Okay? So I'm not telling you. I don't want you to ever count. Don't count. You don't have to count calories, nothing like that. That takes a load off people. I said, no, listen, I want you to replace. Okay? Change your meals. You like cereal? It don't like you. That's just sugar molecules holding hands. Frosted Flakes aren't great, says Tony the Tiger. That's what they called me as a kid. Tony the Tiger. But they're not great. Kids can't eat that stuff. Well, they can, but it rewires their brain. And the food industry knows it. They hook them. You want to see addicts? My name is Tony and I'm a carboholic. Don't be duped about that. Sugar and the brain. Wow, unreal. This is one too that again we comment on this all the time. If you go back into our emails and even into our podcasts, look at the heart and sugar. There's two things that happen. Okay? Sugar destroys blood vessels. Your body knows that. The world don't know it, but the body does. The world only acknowledges it if someone is a diabetic. And then they say, oh, sugar is destructive. I get a migraine because I talked to a person the other day that told me that their dietitian, when they were referred to them, when they found out they were a diabetic, said, let me quote, now you need to eat in moderation. I got a migraine. It was instant. Nah, it's elimination, not moderation. My daddy, he was smart. My daddy would have been 101 today, September the 2nd. Okay? Smart man. Okay? Son, it's sugar diabetes, he told me, when I was 16 years old. When he became a diabetic, and my education commenced into blood sugar as a 16-year-old. My dad taught me something. Son, it's sugar diabetes. Therefore, this is my daddy in 1968. Therefore, son, you will no longer see your dad eating sugar, especially drinking it. What? Especially drinking it. You will see that your daddy, no more orange juice, even though he loved orange juice. No more apple juice, even though we had it in our house. My dad said, it's sugar diabetes. It's not moderation. It's elimination. The world doesn't get it yet, guys, because they don't. You have to understand, and I've taught you this for a lot of years. There's major influences in the world, okay? Let me bring you behind the scenes, okay? The Bible says there's another world out there, okay? It's an invisible world, but it's there nonetheless. But let me bring you behind the scenes of the world and how it operates, okay? You have big food. Used to be the tobacco industry. What was tobacco famous for? Addiction. And they lied, and they lied, and they lied. Tobacco isn't addicting. It's not. With straight faces, they said it. And when they got caught, they just, I guess smoking is going to be not going to be vogue anymore. Let's change. And what did they do? Phillips, which was the biggest company in the stinking world, said, Philip Morris said, you know what? Let's start buying into the food industry. And we'll bring all our scientists, the addiction scientists, with us. Guys, I watched it happen. It happened in my lifetime. Here's me with a PhD in clinical nutrition. I watched them do it. Dupe the world. And it was all based on moderation. And they educated. They educated the dietitians. They bought and paid for them. They sponsored them. The cereal companies. The food companies. And they turned the pyramid upside down. The food pyramid. What? Well, eggs, cholesterol, cheese, fat, cholesterol, meat. Yikes! Cholesterol. And behind the scenes, the pharmaceutical companies, they saw an opportunity to be billionaire companies, conglomerates, and they got involved in the scam of cholesterol. And they doubled down. And my parents' generation took it. They went from butter to margarine. They went from meat to cereal. They were told that bacon was bad because it's going to clog up your arteries, and they bought the lie of oatmeal. And the number one selling drink of the universe is orange juice. Oh, Dr. Martin, it's Tropicana. Yeah, with 40-something grams of sugar in it. You're just drinking sugar. God wanted you to eat fruit, not drink it. I watched it happen, guys. And here we are today. Down the road. And in the I've written this in so many books. In the 1950s, when I was a little boy, yes, I had ice cream and cookies too, you know. And in the 1950s, Canadians and Americans were consuming 25 pounds of sugar. You've seen the big bag of 25 pounds. Well, that's a lot of sugar in a year. My kids' generation, all my kids were born in the 1970s, okay? This week, my son turns 52. He's the brains at the Martin Clinic. Turns 52. I shake my head. All my kids were born in the 50s. You know how much sugar they were consuming? They doubled it. They were at 50 pounds. 25 in the 1950s, my generation. My next generation, they were up to 50 pounds. And you know where my grandchildren are today and my great-grandchildren? And not them individually, they know better. You know where they're at? Almost 200 pounds. A dump truck load of sugar. Do you think your body was made for that? And guys, I'm just talking about added sugar. I'm not even talking about sugar molecules holding hands in bread and noodles and all the rest of it. We're up to almost 200 pounds. What chance does a kid have? When I talk to you about mental health, why has it gotten so much worse? Why? Well, that's a big reason. It may not be the only reason, but it's a big reason. Change. I got on a real diatribe this morning. I didn't think I was going to do that. There was a new study on chronic fatigue syndrome. I was going to bring you that, but we got the rest of the week, don't we? Yeah, Lord willing. Okay, now, Friday is Q&A, and so was Monday, by the way. Those folks who missed that, we had a Q&A Monday, had to finish up. We had so many questions. Isn't that great? Somebody accused me the other day of not answering questions. I mean, you know what? I don't get offended. I really don't. But I got offended that day. That bothered me. Man, I don't know anybody that takes as many questions as I do. And I love answering them. And sometimes, I don't know much about a subject. I usually tell you. Right? Like, I was in practice for a lot of years, and is there anything new under the sun? But I'm always learning. I'm always learning. Okay, I promise to breathe, and we love you guys so dearly because this audience is numero uno on the planet. I'll put my audience up against any audience ever on any podcast. You guys. So proud of you. You make me proud because you're so smart. I love that. Okay. Talk to you soon.